Welcome to Dimensional Shift, where we explore and actively deprogram ourselves, seek the truth of reality through expanding our perceptions, and focus on full remembrance of our true selves. As we begin to connect to our true selves, we will also see the truth of this illusory reality and the way it controls us through our manipulated perceptions. As soon as we fully remember our true selves, we will also see the enemy for what it is and how to rebalance the system by freeing ourselves and assisting others to do the same, creating a domino effect into the evolution of human consciousness. Welcome back to Dimensional Shift. Today we're going to be talking about stepping into your role and accepting the call. Many of us are being called and activated to be change makers, cycle breakers, system destroyers, things of that nature. And it can cause a lot of discomfort if we're not willing to look at the parts and pieces that have been put into motion to keep us from wanting to step into those roles. At some point along your path, you will understand that you have a larger role to play in the way that the system is being brought down and the way that society or the earth paradigm will be rebuilt. And when you get a sense of that, it can get uncomfortable, to say the least. And there's a few reasons for this. The biggest reason is because your ego wants to identify that role with you as you are. And the problem with that is the role is going to feel really, really big. And your ego wants to keep you safe, so it's going to try and reject that idea. It's going to feel like you're setting yourself up for failure, or it's going to feel like you're going to put yourself in a situation where you could be unsafe or feel rejected. I will tell my story a little bit later and how my ego tried to protect me from it as well. And like I say all the time, don't let the ego defend the programming. The important part about stepping into your calling is to find the why. They use this all the time in business. It keeps you going in the direction you need to be going, and it helps all the details fall into place without actually having to worry about the details. The important why is the why that's outside of yourself. Understanding that what you're being called to do affects more than just you. So it's a little bit different than the business aspect of it, but when we're talking about these missions and the calling and all of that, we're talking about something that's very, very big, and it's going to be affecting a lot of people. And it's important to remember that the people we are here to help are still people, and they have their own programming, and we're going to have to start thinking about how we're going to reach them through that programming. Eventually, you're going to reach this point of cognitive dissonance, which means that you're having information come in that contradicts your beliefs. And you can either reject the information and keep your beliefs, or you can integrate the information and change your beliefs. It's really quite uncomfortable, I'm not going to lie. The most important thing you can do is to feel the emotions and surrender whatever resistances you're having. You're going to have a lot of programming that's been delivered over lifetimes, and it's been delivered in such a way that it's compounded and it's kept you wrapped up in these loops and stories, and it's kept you in a certain type of thought pattern so that when this moment came, you would have this cognitive dissonance and you would have a chance of rejecting it. That's the whole plan, is for you to reach this point, if you reach this point, to have you reject it. For example, when I first incarnated here, I lived several lifetimes fairly awake, fairly aware of the system and the way that the powers that be ran it, and I spent lifetime after lifetime very much alone. It was safer that way. I could help operate on the fringes. I could help people on the fringes without getting in too much trouble, and I was still helping as much as I could. Of course, there were lots of run-ins with the powers that be, and I spent many lifetimes imprisoned and executed and tortured and all of that. Typical wise woman type of thing, right? And then I incarnated into a lifetime where they changed up their method of keeping me silenced. And I was born into a wealthy family, kind of like the medieval era Europe. And suddenly I had access to family, and I had access to friends, and I had wealth, and I had prestige. And yet with that came a lot of the programming that came into programming women of privilege, right? You are meant to be seen, not heard. Your opinion doesn't matter. Later, as I kept incarnating into these wealthy families, it became your places in the kitchen, your places in the bedroom. You will provide me with children. Here's your allowance. I want to know what you've spent it on. There was very much more control. And then even later, when you get into the 20th century, women who talk too loud are bitches and things like that. So there was layers of programming that came on. And this week I started looking at how that's affected my relationship with women, my relationship with my own femininity, and how it's triangulated in this really bizarre way. And it's all been meant to keep me from understanding my mission. And the more that you can be willing to look at it in a very uncomfortable way and take it apart piece by piece, feel what you need to feel, keep surrendering everything, all the programming, it has to be surrendered until you reach a place where you understand that the why, that the people you are going to help, that the mission is more important than you. It's more important than your safety. It's more important than your happiness. It's more important than your freedom. These missions that we have only feel big when we tie it to our sense of self. And when we can look at it from one level up, you think about it from consciousness level, you can see that it's more important than any individual person. An important point to make here is that only you know what you have been called to do. And that calling may change after you accomplish specific missions. It may evolve into other missions. It may get bigger. It may get smaller. You may have side quests. And also, don't worry about labels or past lives. Past lives are garments that we wore for a period of time and then cast off when we moved on. Look at your past lives in order to understand the programming you went through. But don't get hung up on who you were then and who you knew then unless there's some kind of soul contracts kind of thing floating around that you need to deal with. What matters is how you move forward in this lifetime, because we are at a very, very important juxtaposition right now where the probabilities are shifting so quickly that we have a chance to take this world back and to move it into the world that it was supposed to have been. We're getting close to the point of, some people would call it ascension. I think of it just as the human evolution, the next step for humans. And the more people who can understand and step into their roles and start fighting for the things that they need to do to fulfill that role, the better off we'll be. In the end, you may have to start by doing it scared. Only in the face of fear is action courageous. A lot of the times, especially recently, I've been having to do these podcasts scared because I know that there's going to be a little bit of a pushback later. But I know how important the mission is, and I believe in you. I believe in every single one of you that listens to this. I believe in me. I believe in the mission, and I know we can do this. And I want to leave you with a quote that is in the movie Cloud Atlas. The movie itself is really good. I recommend it. It's not one that you're going to want to sit down and be on your phone while you watch, because you will not keep up. Make sure you have it's a 3-hour movie. Make sure you have 3 hours to sit and watch it, or you won't understand it. But the quote that struck me when I watched it last night was when the woman was explaining why she was willing to die for her mission. She said, "If I had remained invisible, the truth would stay hidden. I couldn't allow that." And the person interviewing her said, "And what if no one believes your truth?" And she said, "Someone already has." If you found this episode helpful or insightful, please share it with a friend and leave a review or comment. Make sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. I host twice weekly open discussions on the podcast topic on our Discord server. If you'd like to join, head to dimensionalshifter.com/Discord. If you're on Reddit, come join the subreddit r/dimensionalshifters or send me a DM. My username is Dimensional Shifter. Keep deprogramming, keep connecting, keep listening to your intuition. This is it. This is what we've been searching for our whole lives. Connection to our true selves.